It's not the date that you apply for your green card that matters if you've waited 2 years. What matters is the date your green card is approved. I think that you lose out on a lot of time as a permanent resident if you wait to get your full 10-year green card instead of getting a conditional green card first. How long after you get married should you apply for your permanent residence, your green card? Should you wait 1 month? Should you wait 2 years? Does it make a difference? These are some questions I regularly receive, so I thought I would make a video specifically on the topic. So there is a distinction between green cards that are issued more than 2 years after you get married versus less than 2 years. If you've been married for longer than 2 years, on the day you become a permanent resident, your green card will not have conditions. It'll be a 10-year green card. But does that mean you should wait 2 years after you get married before you apply for the green card? I would generally advise against that for a variety of reasons that we're going to get into. First of all, it's not the date that you apply for your green card that matters if you've waited 2 years. What matters is the date your green card is approved. So for example, if after a year and a half of being married, you apply for your green card and it takes 7 months to process so that you get your physical green card more than 2 years after you got married, there will be no conditions attached to that permanent residence. It's very difficult to predictably know when your green card will be issued. So it's kind of a losing game from the start. But there are other better reasons why you shouldn't wait and why you should just be okay with getting a conditional green card. And we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons. First of all, if you get a conditional green card, you generally have all the rights and privileges of a real permanent resident. You can file petitions for family members, even though the categories of petition that you could file differ from permanent resident to citizen. So for example, if you want a petition for your parents, you're gonna still need to wait till you become a US citizen to do that. But the difference in the petitions that a conditional resident versus a full resident can file, there is no difference. You're both considered permanent residents for purposes of filing petitions. Also, once you're a conditional resident, you can leave the US and re-enter. You have all the rights and privileges of a permanent resident. You can work legally in the US. You can do everything that a permanent resident can do. The only difference is that before your 2 years expire, you need to file a form I-751, I've discussed it in many of my videos, to remove the conditions on your residency. So why would somebody want to wait more than 2 years? Well, there is one major reason. First of all, the I-751 to remove the conditions costs money. Currently it costs $680, and a lawyer will also charge you to prepare it for you and represent you. Another reason is that the I-751 could take years to process. When you file the I-751, you get a letter from USCIS saying this letter serves as an extension of your green card. So with this letter, you can prove that your green card is still active. You can use this letter with your expired green card to travel and re-enter the US. You could use it to prove that you're a permanent resident for employment purposes and for everything else. I think that you lose out on a lot of time as a permanent resident if you wait to get your full 10-year green card instead of getting a conditional green card first. It also affects your timeline for citizenship because your time as a conditional resident, if you're married to a US citizen, counts towards the 3 years for citizenship. So if you've been a conditional resident for 2 years, after you apply to remove the conditions, 1 year later, you can apply for citizenship, which might be better for your goals, especially if you eventually intend to petition for like your parents, for example, to come to the US. I don't represent people who engage in fake marriages, and to be honest, in all the years I've been doing this, I've only encountered those situations maybe like 2 or 3 times. So I think it's a much smaller problem than a lot of people claim. But then again, I have a biased sample size where I tell people I'm not going to represent you if I get a whiff that the marriage isn't real. But I imagine maybe those people would prefer to wait the 2 years so they only have to go through the scrutiny of USCIS one time instead of having to subsequently file the petition to remove conditions where USCIS can have a second chance to interview you. On that note, a lot of people ask me, like, okay, when I get my green card through my spouse, I'll probably be interviewed. Yes, that's true, probably, not always. But when I file the I-751 to remove the conditions, will I be interviewed again? And the answer is maybe, probably not, if you have a lot of evidence from the last 2 years showing you guys have been in a good faith marriage. Most of my clients who file I-751s to remove conditions who are still married and in a good faith marriage don't have interviews. I've seen like maybe 2 situations where they were interviewed because they just refused to submit evidence of their ongoing marriage. And eventually USCIS, after giving them some opportunities to mail in more evidence, scheduled them for an interview. So back to the initial question. How long after getting married should you apply for your permanent residence? My general advice is immediately. Once you're married, you've presumably been in a relationship for a while, and there's some evidence of that relationship. As long as there's evidence for us to submit, I would file for the green card the following day after you get the marriage certificate, and that's exactly what I tell most of the people who I consult with. Alright guys, so that brings us to the end of this video. This is a question I commonly received, so I made a video about it. If you have any questions about this specific topic, put it in the comments below. I'll answer all of the comments within a few days of the video posting. After that, there's no guarantees. If you have any other immigration related questions, you can also put them in the comments below. If you need assistance with applying for permanent residence or citizenship or any family-based immigration matter, please feel free to reach out to me. I can represent you or at least consult with you and we can help create a plan. If you're new to my channel, be sure to like and subscribe. I put out a new video on a weekly basis and I'll see you guys next week for another video.